After Kristen Stewart appeared in the Twilight franchise, I think a lot of people expected her to become a big-budget actress. But, like her Twilight co-star Robert Pattinson, Stewart decided to buck that trend. Instead of pursuing big-budget roles, she's decided to stay indie. It's worth recapping her career pre-Twilight and then comparing it to after Twilight. Being raised in the entertainment industry certainly helped her. Her father was a stage manager and TV producer, while her mother worked as a script supervisor and filmmaker. Some of her first roles on TV and film were uncredited, but her first big role came in David Fincher's 2002 movie, Panic Room, where she starred alongside Jodie Foster. The movie was a hit, critically and commercially, and opened up new doors for Stewart. Still, she didn't really have any overt hits on her hand in the next half-decade. Most of them were critical and commercial flops, though how much she wanted to do them is up for debate. At such a young age, consider that she wouldn't become an adult until Twilight was released in 2008, it's difficult to imagine that she had an idea of the kind of career that she wanted to shape for herself. But there were still a few interesting movies in these pre-Twilight years. 2005's The Thorough, a space adventure directed by Jon Favreau. 2007's The Messengers was a commercial success. The Cake Eaters, a well-received drama. And The Yellow Handkerchief, also a well-received drama. Her final film of 2008 changed everything though. She starred opposite Robert Pattinson in Twilight, which is perhaps the book people think of when they think of young adult, and consider all the books and movie series that followed. Twilight was a smash success. It grossed more than $400 million on a tiny $37 million budget, though, like the movie, met with less than stellar reviews. Stewart would reprise her role 4 times in the 4 sequels: New Moon in 2009, Eclipse in 2010, Breaking Dawn Part 1 in 2011, and Breaking Dawn Part 2 in 2012. A lot of people like to rag on these movies, but I'm going to say this: they are efficiently made films. New Moon and Eclipse both kept their budgets at $50 and $68 million respectively, and pulled in more than $1.4 billion at the box office. The 2 Breaking Dawn films were much more expensive at $127 and $136 million each, but still managed to pull in more than $1.5 billion at the box office. But these Twilight years are also notable because they are also the most blockbustery movies that Stewart has ever done. The only other large movie she did was Snow White and the Huntsman, which cost $170 million to make and was met with mixed reviews. After Breaking Dawn Part 2, she completely stopped doing blockbuster films and has stuck to indies. It's worth asking why, and Stewart seems to have an answer. In an interview with the appropriately named Interview magazine, she said, quote, "I feel scared of anything big lately. There's a weird hierarchy that makes me uncomfortable," end quote. After the Twilight series ended, Stewart, like co-star Robert Pattinson, has preferred to stick with small, sometimes esoteric indie films. Granted, Pattinson eventually made his way back into blockbusters with movies like Tenet, directed by Christopher Nolan, and The Batman, directed by Matt Reeves, but there was still a decade-long period where he preferred more intimate projects. Stewart, it seems, still prefers them, though she has tried to do some bigger budget movies in the recent years. One of her best films was 2009's Adventureland, which almost doubled its tiny budget and got rave reviews. She starred opposite Jesse Eisenberg, another actor that's had a few notable blockbuster roles, but has mostly preferred to stick to doing indies. In 2014, she was in X-Ray, which had a $1 million budget but got solid reviews, as well as Still Alice, which got rave reviews and grossed 10 times its $4 million budget. It was a similar case for Clouds of Sils Maria, directed by Olivier Assayas, which won Stewart the César Award for Best Supporting Actress, a French award that went to an American for the first time in its history. 2016 had Stewart in well-acclaimed movies: Certain Women, directed by Kelly Reichardt, Café Society, directed by Woody Allen, and Personal Shopper, which saw her reunite with Olivier Assayas. It was as though the smaller a movie was, the more likely it was to get decent critical reviews, but conversely not do well at the box office. In fact, most of these movies probably lost money. In 2019, she was in a remake of Charlie's Angels that predictably flopped. That said, it's interesting to note it because it was made on a $50 million budget, one of the highest budgeted roles that Stewart has done since her stint as Bella Swan ended. 2020's Underwater, a sci-fi horror film, had an even larger budget, though, like Charlie's Angels, failed to do well either commercially or critically. These movies seem to represent something of a mind shift for Stewart, who seemed to be testing the big budget waters again, but alas they didn't turn out in her favor. The same year, she was in Happiest Season, which was made for Hulu and got decent reviews. Undoubtedly, her most important role since Twilight was her portrayal of Princess Diana in 2021's Spencer. The movie got solid reviews, but more importantly for her career, also earned Stewart a Best Actress nomination at the Academy Awards. The following year, she appeared in Crimes of the Future, a well-received body horror movie, and was in 2024's Love Lies Bleeding, which got rave reviews. She's also going to be writing and directing a film adaptation of The Chronology of Water, a memoir written by Lydia Yuknovich. Stewart has had an interesting career. Most actors, once they get their big breaks, continue to press on that point, appearing in a mix of crowd pleasers and intimate indies. Stewart has seemingly committed herself entirely to the latter. How that turns out for her long term remains to be seen. For what it's worth, I hope it turns out well. I think that Kristen Stewart is a phenomenal actress and still has plenty of great performances left to deliver.